Hey everybody, so I am starting off this week's What Sold video on Ruby Lane for a change. Maybe I should pop this down so you can see we're here on Ruby Lane. I just wanted to remind myself that I will be doing an updated Ruby Lane video sometime this month, and just kind of a selling on Ruby Lane in 2024, just so you can see any of the changes or anything, or if you're still interested in possibly selling on Ruby Lane, kind of see a little bit what it's about. I do have some older videos on that, but I'll kind of just cover some of the changes that Ruby Lane has made recently. But I had a few sales on Ruby Lane that week. I think they were running a sale, which I just kind of spaced on and didn't get a chance to participate in, but I still had some nice full price sales, which is always good, that I'm always happy with. This first item is a set of silver plated serving pieces. The pattern is Queen Bess, and this is Tudor plate, so community flatware, Oneida community. And it's fairly a common, well-known pattern, and I had already broken the pieces I had up into smaller lots, and so I think I just have a few things left of what I had listed. And these serving pieces sold for $31 plus shipping. This was a set of corn holders. They're actually by Interpure. They were stainless steel, like it says, with a rosewood handle. Cute little box. These did take a little while to sell. They might have sold faster on eBay or Etsy or something like that, but I was happy to sell these for $15. They were, you know, little things that go on the end of your corn on the cob to hold them. So very, very cool. Then I also had another flatware sale on Ruby Lane. This was stainless flatware that I picked up not that long ago at a thrift. I had bought the whole set and I kind of paid up. They had the whole set in a flatware tray, kind of shrink wrapped. And so I could flip it over. I could see the brand. I kind of recognized the pattern. I've sold it before. It's International Silver, but it's only marked Lyon. Lyon or lion. And so it's one of the most well-known brand patterns for the Lyon branch of International, Queen's Fancy. And so this buyer bought, I had several listings, some multiples of the groups of 4 and things like that. And that's how I decided to do it, was just divvy it up. So like I said, I bought the whole set. I don't know, I can't remember now if I just said I paid like $75 for the whole set, but there were quite a few pieces of flatware in there. This person bought, I want to say 28 pieces of flatware, and they paid $162. So like this one, she bought 4 solid forks, but ×2, dinner forks ×1, but the teaspoons were ×2 as well. So a lot of the pieces were like $5 a piece. The dinner forks sell for about $10 a piece. So I knew when I saw the set at the thrift store, even though it was kind of a high investment, I knew I could make my money back pretty quickly. So, and I did that already. So everything else I have listed in this pattern will be gravy. Okay, next one on Ruby Lane was this Bennington Potter's Double Spout Creamer. The pattern is called Blue Agate. This sold for $26, and it took a few months to sell. I will say that. If you don't know Bennington Potters, it's a Vermont pottery company. And let's just pop over to eBay real quick. Here we go. Let's just look at, this is just the solds for Bennington Potters in the last 90 days. You know, we're not going to go into a deep dive or anything, but 489 solds. And I just have it ended recently. It's not highest to lowest or anything like that, but you can see the prices are pretty high for their pottery, for their pieces. So it's definitely a brand that you want to keep an eye out for. Some of these I have sold in the past. So there's Blue Agate. This one, let me see if there's any. Blue agate is kind of one of the popular ones. There's a white agate. There's a green agate. That's kind of like that sponge look to the paint. So let me go back to mine. See, they kind of have I'll show you the mark. So it's kind of written all over the bottom of the piece, but we have Vermont written over here. There's a little maker's mark, Bennington Potters, and then a little identification mark for the piece. So keep your eye open for Bennington Potters. So we're going to stay with vintage just for a bit. We're going to go over to one of our Etsy shops. This is Metal and Tweed. It's still called Metal and Tweed. We haven't changed the name of it yet, even though we're going to. This was a set of coasters that sold there by Otagiri. So Otagiri is not just mugs, you know, there's a lot of different housewares and decor and things like that that Otagiri did. And these were called considered lacquerware. And we had a nice set of, I believe, well, the 6 coasters and then the box to keep them in. We sold those for $24. And then I don't know if you remember this from last week, Russell Wright Steubenville. So the smaller bowls had all sold on eBay, but they were cross-posted to Etsy. And so this larger 9-inch bowl ended up selling on Etsy for $50. So that is a nice price for that. Russell Wright, let me see if this one had the mark on the bottom. Yes, it does. So it's usually is marked Russell Wright in script, and then that one you can also see by Steubenville. So Russell Wright is the designer on those. Great mid-century designer. And then look at this crazy thing. So I forgot to write down what the actual selling price was. Oh no, I did. $187.50. So hold on one second. Take a look at that. Let me just tell you the story of this real quick. I just realized that my camera can do this. Okay, so we can go full screen and you get to look at my tired face up close and personal. Anyway, so I was at a yard sale last summer and I came across that Culver Set and I was like, oh my goodness, it's so cool, but shipping, how are we going to ship that? Does Mr. Pish Posh want to ship this? So I believe I texted him and I shot him a picture of it and I said, do you want to ship this? And he said, oh, of course. So I had it on Ruby Lane for a really long time and I had it at a pretty high price. Now that the mid-century glassware can be pretty good. Ruby Lane, of course, has a smaller audience, but it does push things out to Google. So I was kind of counting on that happening or whatever, but it takes up a lot of room. So just recently we said, you know what, let's redo the listing. Let's move it over to, I think we needed to redo the photos. And I said, let's move it over to eBay and Etsy and see how it does. Okay, so let's go back and look at it. Okay, it's putting me over here again, but I'm going to move myself back over. I'm just so excited about that feature of this software. Okay, so take a look at it. It is there's so much to this, right? So, okay, it's just so cool because it has the tray. Let's go through some of these pictures. Okay, it's got the ice bucket, it's got the glasses, and the color and everything was still good on these. So the pattern was called Cranberry Scroll. There's some really popular Culver patterns like Valencia and things like that just sell so easy. So there weren't a ton of comps for things like this, but it had an ice bucket. It's signed Culver, makes it so easy. It even came with a pair of gold colored tongs to go with it. So anyway, I thought you guys would be interested in seeing, now this looks like a defect here, but I think that's just a reflection because the color was good all the way around. I thought you guys might be interested in seeing how Mr. Pish Posh shipped this. So I do have footage of that. It's just footage. He's not really explaining anything as far as I know. Like I said, this actually sold for $187.50. What ended up happening was someone had messaged us. And they said, would you take, Etsy has a new offer system now where they can send you an offer, right? And it's all done through messaging and stuff like that. So they had sent us an offer for $200 and we said, you know what, let's just move this thing on. So $200, we accepted it. Well, all of a sudden she checks out and she pays, and it's not $200. And I said, uh-oh, what happened? Well, Mr. Pish Posh was kind of frustrated with this Etsy shop. And so he has a coupon going for people who've abandoned an item in their shopping cart. So we have no way of knowing who has that coupon and who doesn't have the coupon. It's just basically like a, hey, you had it in your shopping cart and then you went and did a bunch of, you totally forgot about it. So they send out a coupon for them to use, as an incentive for them to finish the purchase. So at first I thought she was able to use the offer and the coupon, but it turns out it was just the coupon, and the coupon was actually better than the offer that she made. So I was like, all right, whatever, $187.50. I can't argue with that. I just know it's a lot of work to do the shipping, and I just wanted to make sure it was worth it for the price that we were getting. But all water under the bridge. So right here, I am going to insert the footage of Mr. Pish Posh doing that shipping. And good news, we got good feedback on it. So I'll show you the feedback after you watch this part of the video. Okay, so we are done. Hopefully that gives you some ideas. I know it can be intimidating. As you can see, when I found it at the yard sale, I paid like $12 for this at the yard sale. And I was like, I'm not going to ship it. Like, I don't have the experience shipping, but Mr. Pish Posh is very experienced. And so here you go. Here's the feedback we got. It all arrived in one piece. It was a gift for her husband, and he loved it. So anyway, that made me feel better. Next up on eBay, we're over on eBay now, is this. I sold another one of these wall hanging fabric panels, and we are up to 3 of these having sold now. And I do believe this one sold with 10% off. At this point in reselling, of the month of January, I still had the 10% coupon going. So $14.99 minus the 10%. Next item was this little Texas Instruments spelling bee, very nostalgic little game type educational tool. This also sold for 10% off the $14.99. It's not worth a ton. Something else I picked up at a yard sale. I don't tend to do a whole lot of searching on my phone at yard sales, especially if something is fairly inexpensive. So I remember it was a yard sale where you could just throw a bunch of stuff in boxes, and it was you just paid per box. So, not worth a ton, but just kind of fun. But there are some vintage Texas Instruments items that can be worth good money. I sold a necktie. This one also was $24.99 minus the 10%. Just a plain wool necktie. Here's the label. John Malloy, Senegal tweed, made in Ireland, pure new wool. So wool is definitely a good material to look for vintage neckties. And that was a nice sale. And then here's another instance where it's not so much the brand, but the style that sells a piece. This is just this fun, like from the 90s, maybe Y2K, but just this denim skirt, nice and long, full of ruffles. You know, it was all just very, it could be like Western, you know, Western boho, that kind of look. And it was a size 10. I went ahead and put the waist size in the title as well, because we know vintage sizing is not always exactly the same. So that was kind of fun. And the brand on this was just Together. Like, I have seen that label a few times, but it's made in China, so it was probably 90s Y2K. Oh, did I say what it sold for? It sold for $34.99 minus the 10%. And then this was a little camera set thing. I think we picked up at an estate sale. Mr. Pish Posh handled this one. He picked it up. And this was sold for $170 minus the 10%. It went internationally, and I looked at the buyer's address, and it's going to like Saudi Arabia or someplace like that. So that was kind of cool. I don't remember what we paid originally, and it took a couple months to sell. This is one of our little hats. You know us, we get our hats at the bins at our little clearance center. And Mammoth, it's just one of those brands. It's not like crazy sought after, it has a loyal following, but this only sold for $15. We just took an offer on that one. Just a beanie with a pom-pom. Next up, you know me, I like my cheese planes. This is one of my favorite types of utensils, but look at that price. Now, I normally sell the regular spar or unbranded cheese planes for anywhere from $16 to $20. This one sold for $38.99. There was no 10% on that one, so I don't know why that happened, but it was another international sale. I believe it went to Australia. But $38.99 for this cheese plane. Now, the brand was one that we hadn't come across before, but it was Bjorklund is what it turned out to be. And this actually was in my profit pile, which is crazy. So we came across them recently. You know, there was a handful of these in one of my bins or something like that. So we got them all listed. And then this one sold for $38.99. Sold another necktie. This is a vintage 1940s. It's a hand-woven necktie. You can see this older label on it. So Homestead hand-woven. The copyright is Hipsh. Hipsh Incorporated Resilient Construction, which we know helps date the tie. And anyway, yeah, so I just took an offer on that one for $19. And this was one of those, I don't know why I bought it kind of items, but I just thought, well, people like Raggedy Ann and Andy. It's a crib mobile, and it actually was less than that. So I think it was either an offer or something, but $12.74. But what was lovely is that we got such nice feedback from the buyer that they added it to their collection. So I don't know, do they have them hanging somewhere? I'm not quite sure how that works, but they said they had never seen this one before. So I made somebody happy, and we kept something else out of the landfill. So that's a win-win. That sold for like $12.74. Did I say that? This hat was $16.99 minus the 10%. This one has been listed for a little while, just like a kid's beanie. Now, this was one of the utensils, one of my last haul videos that I did. In the title or the thumbnail, I talked about one of those utensils being worth $50. So this was one of the other utensils I talked about in that video. And this one actually sold for $30, which was awesome, minus the 10%, so $27 or so. But this was just a jar lid opener, and it had, it was probably a giveaway. So it had some kind of advertising on it as well. Halliburton Oil and Gas Company fleece. So you never know what kind of randomness will be needed by someone. Another beanie we picked up at our little outlet clearance center, and that one sold for $18.99 minus 10%. Now here's another challenging shipping situation that we had this week. I say we, but I mean Mr. Pish Posh. And I don't have video of him doing this, but I did take a few pictures, so I'll put up some pictures just so you can see the size box that we ended up having to use. It was a very large, I don't know if we have any pictures that explain the scale of how large it was, but let's see what we say in the description. It was 15¼ inches high. It was about 13 inches across. Okay. So it's a good size vase, and it's Tanala pottery. I don't think it was signed. Oh, maybe it just had the place name on the bottom. But anyway, it had that look. It was very nice. We had it in our living room for a little while, but it wasn't quite matching our look. We don't really have a look, but it didn't quite fit in. And we decided to put it up for sale and ended up selling it for $125, like I said. And so it needed a fairly good sized box, and we ended up putting it, I think it was FedEx shipping is what we ended up using. And yay, good news. I'm pretty sure we got good feedback on this one too. Yeah, I think we did, because I remember whenever I see the feedback on things like this, I'm like, oh, that's so exciting. And so it just makes us, even Mr. Pish Posh was happy when I told him. I said, we got feedback on that. It made it to you. It made it there safely. So I'm going to put that feedback up right here. And speaking of feedback, I need to show you another feedback, okay? So, okay, first of all, this feedback for this vase, I'm sure it mentions it being well packed. So Mr. Pish Posh always well packs, right? And so this one made it to the buyer safely. Now, this next feedback that I want to show you has to do with just a high dollar sale. So if you remember the boots that I sold for $400, again, that was minus the 10% coupon, but they were going to Denmark. And when I saw that feedback, that the buyer was so happy, you can see it right here, and they fit his feet perfectly, that just makes me like, whew, good. Makes me feel happy. All right, we are moving on to the next one. This one is an airbrush set that we picked up at a thrift store. I think it was about $10. We only sold this for $45, so about half that asking price. I don't know. Mr. Pish Posh, he always starts high with his pricing. We've kind of played around with being high and then low, and just sometimes if you don't have exact comps, you have to just kind of throw something out there and then just see what kind of offers you get. I think we had originally gotten it something for my son to possibly use, but then we decided it wasn't quite what he needed. Now, interestingly, the name of the company, Posh, if that sounds familiar, that's our last name, but there's no E in our last name. So if you ever wondered where Pish Posh came from, that's why, because our last name is Posh. Just thought I'd throw that random fact out there. Next up is another Mr. Pish Posh item. We went to a thrift store. Sometimes when we go to a thrift store as a family, this was a little local thrift store. We're all done. I mean, the boys are done way faster than us, obviously. I was done early because I had been to that thrift store a few times. But Mr. Pish Posh is a digger, right? He's very thorough in all that he does. And so he likes to dig and dig and dig, which is good because he's digging in stuff that I don't know anything about. And so he came across this Skylanders accessory for Xbox, and he grabbed it. And we got up to the counter. She charged about $1. He found 2 of them. Yeah, so I think she charged him $1 for this, and it ended up selling for this $69.99 minus 10%. Next up is this shaving razor. It's a strop. It's something that you sharpen your razors on. And this was part of a grouping of shaving items that we've already sold a bunch of stuff out of and had made really good money on this $10 box of shaving equipment that I got at a yard sale. And so this one sold for $14.44. It was most likely an offer. Now this one was kind of interesting. The brand is called Rab, and I do believe it is a British company. Outdoor wear. So this was a down vest. It was microlight. I don't know, maybe because it was women's, but it hardly got any attention. Now I saw some other clothing items by Rab that sold for pretty good money, but I think maybe possibly they were all men's. So we had to drop our price quite a bit. We had it on $50 the most recently, and when I got a $35 offer, I went ahead and took that because this just wasn't getting any kind of attention. And that one is okay. So then we have this set of cups, which is kind of funny because we saw these at the thrift store. I can't remember which one, and whether we were on a trip or something like that. And I was like, honey, don't get those because I have cups and saucers of this pattern, and these are just cups with no saucers. And I have had the like smaller cups with saucers like demi-tasse listed on Etsy and eBay, all this place for years and years and years, and no one has bought them yet. And so he went ahead and got these anyway, and figures these are the two that sold, right? So $18.99 minus the 10%, no saucers, just cups. Somebody wanted them and they are gone. Whereas my stuff is still listed. Okay, Land's End, another necktie. This is a square end necktie, which I've talked about before on this channel. This one was silk though, not wool like they usually are. And it didn't sell for $50, it sold for $30. I took an offer on that one, and the brand was Land's End. Like I said, 100% silk, kind of woven anyway. And then I've shown you this, I showed this to you, I believe, on a haul video, right? When I talked about possibly my top find ever. I think I showed this to you, but mentioned that it had already sold. So I'm just showing you again because in case you didn't watch that video. But this was a ceramic sculpture type art. The hole is for a flower frog, which it didn't include. And I had mentioned before that I had asked in a studio pottery group on Facebook who this was, and they identified it like almost immediately as Ginny Conroe of Seattle. And so we listed it, and it sold like next day for the $70 minus the 10%. Sold these Nike ACGs shoes. We got these from a friend's yard sale. They were unsold at the end of the yard sale, so we bought them, I think, for about $10. And these sold minus the 10%, $50 minus the 10%. And then these next two went to the same buyer. They are a needlepoint pattern only. There's some embellishment beads or whatever that are included. But the buyer bought both of these patterns for $15 each. So she paid $30 altogether for the two, and we combined shipping. Quick pair of shoes. Paid a couple bucks for these and sold for $17. We just took an offer. Somebody wanted them, and they sold really fast, and they were in pretty good condition. And so we just moved them on. We just did it, they didn't take much to list because there was no cleaning or anything involved. And Senduk, they're not high dollar. They're very lightweight shoes. They're not high dollar anything. But anyway, they sold fast, so that was nice. And last up was this hat, another hat we picked up at the Bins Outlet Clearance Center, so paid pennies most likely, and it had some superhero comic action on it. So let's pop over to Etsy again. Now in the pattern shop, we had a few pattern sales that week because I had been upping my pattern listing again. I do need to get back on that again. We just had a really busy week last week, personally, and we didn't do a whole lot of reselling related activity. So this week has kind of been getting back into the swing of things, and I had some other videos I had planned, but I thought, you know what, I just want to get a video out, so I'm just going to do another What Sold. So, but hopefully there will be some different kind of content coming to you shortly. So this McCall's costume pattern sold for $24. This DKNY Vogue pattern sold for $33. I do so well with 1990s Y2K DKNY patterns. They're the last year or so, couple years or so, they just good prices out the door. And this sold in a couple days. Another costume pattern sold for $24. So yes, the costume patterns sell all year round, especially reenactment and those types of patterns. $24 for that one, Civil War style. And then another Y2K pattern, just a McCall's, slip dress kind of style for $12. Now I'm just going to share a Depop sale with you, and I'm just going to explain something real quick because I'm going to play around with my little feature. Anyway, so Depop has, okay, no, this is what I was going to say. So what I sold on Depop was a faux fur coat. And the reason I listed it was because I had followed VENDOO on social media, and they are really good about sharing trends and sharing. Remember, I shared with you that whole video about hashtags and aesthetics and things like that. Well, by following VENDOO on social media, they had started talking about this TikTok trend called mob wife. Okay, so yeah, it's exactly what it sounds like. People are wearing their faux furs and their cheetah prints, and I don't know, Real Housewives, I don't know, Jersey Wives, I don't know those shows. I don't watch any of them, right? But just a very kind of a Jersey look. Anyway, you can look it up. It's called mob wife aesthetic, okay? And so because of that, I was like, I had this faux fur coat that I had listed a couple years ago and couldn't sell it. And it's by Mary Kay. Like, I don't know, if somebody sold a bunch of makeup, they got the coat. And, it's just it was like a swing coat and everything. And so I had tried to sell it in the past, couldn't sell it. The listing, I think, disappeared. It was in the back of my closet. And I thought, you know what, I'm going to pull that out. I'm going to put a reasonable price on it and see how it does with this, aesthetic going on. So sure enough, it's Depop is where it sells. Right? Because that's very trendy and aesthetic type action. A lot of Y2K, 90s type things, but then current trends that are on Depop and stuff like that would also sell. So this one actually sold for $54. I took an offer on that one, but I was getting so much attention on here. I was getting I think I had gotten 4 offers from Depop, Depop people all at once. And on Depop, the offers are not binding. And so if I could accept all the offers if I wanted to, and whoever paid first is the one who gets it. So eBay is kind of doing that as well on some of their listings. If you've noticed that, if you've ever accepted an offer on eBay and it disappeared, that's what's happening. It's still for sale. It's totally fine. Don't view that offer as binding until they actually show you the money, okay? So Depop is always like this. So I accepted a couple of the higher offers. One was $54, and so someone followed through on it and paid. So we shipped that out to her. So I was so happy that I heard about that trend. It was just a way to move a piece of inventory that had just been sitting. So that was really cool. Okay, that was it for that week. That was January 22nd through the 28th. How did you guys do that week? Or do you want to tell me about something that happened this week, more recently? How's reselling going for you January, beginning of February? As always, leave me a comment down below, and I will hopefully talk to you very soon.